Hi, welcome to Civil Analytics, and I just wanted to evaluate the top MVP candidates for the 2022 basketball season. Been listening to the media coverage, and it seems like there's four players that the media has been really pushing for this MVP, for the MVP in 2022. And the names I'm here, the four names I'm hearing are Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and DeMar DeRozan. And I wanted to kind of I wanted to evaluate all these players, right, to try to figure out which players I think most deserve the MVP, right. And honestly, I think given uh, what the MVP is supposed to be for, obviously, not obviously, but from what I've heard and a lot of the information I gather from a lot of the analysts on TV, the MVP is essentially the player who had the most or the best statistical season for that year, right? And so, which player had the best statistical season? And along the way, obviously, it needs to be they should be on a winning ball club, and they should be also important to the success of their team as well. But most importantly, I think they're saying most people feel, or most people say that it's the person who has the best statistical season, right? And so if that's the case, then this is something that should be measured objectively, and so we can actually evaluate the players and try to figure out which one deserves the award the most. And so to do that, what I did was I gathered some information from NBA.com. I gathered I gathered four statistics from the traditional box score on NBA.com, and then I also gathered additional two statistics from the advanced analytics from NBA.com. So the first four is the points, field goal percentage, opposition field goal percentage, defensive rebound. So these four I got uh, from the traditional box score, and then these last two, offensive rating and defensive ratings, I retrieved these two from the advanced statistics on NBA.com. And so I gathered it for all these players that I'm evaluating right here. And so the reason why I gathered these statistics over other statistics were so we're going to begin with field goal opposition and defensive rebounds. So a few years ago, I was doing some research where I was testing, trying to figure out what statistics best determines a team's ability to win ball games over the course of a year. And so I was able to find out field goal percentage, opposition field goal percentage, and defensive rebounds that was most were the three statistics that's most likely to predict a team's ability to win ball games over the course of a season. And then I chose these last two, offensive rating and defensive rating, from advanced analytics because last year I did test the numbers because I did a similar video to this, talking about why Nikola Jokic did deserve the MVP last year. And one thing I did find out testing some of his numbers and some players' numbers was that there's some players where the net rating, so when you subtract the defensive rating from the offensive rating, you get a net rating here. And so their net rating was highly correlated with the team's margin of victory. And so because of that, Nikola Jokic, I think his was like 0.73, which was like the highest out of all the MVP candidates last year. And so that basically meant like he was basically primarily responsible for um, I think this actually I think the R square was probably point maybe it was like 0.69 or something like that. So basically, he was primarily responsible for much of their team's performance last year, essentially, uh, the margin of victory, right? And so because of that, he wasn't the only player that I noticed that about. Another player that I found out that about was also Julius Randle, Joel Embiid. His was also fairly high, but nowhere near as like Jokic. And believe it or not, like Julius Randle, his was like I think it was close to 0.70. The correlation between his net rating and margin of victory, the team's margin of victory. They're not the only ones, and usually the reason why that happens is like when you have players that have a high usage rate and then they have high usage rate, and they average a lot of points and also lead the team in rebounds and then also lead the team in assists. You tend to get that. When you have those kinds of players tend to have this happen where basically their performance is highly correlated to the team's margin of victory. And so that's kind of like this my explanation of why I think that's happening with some players. And so yeah, and so this is the reason why I picked all these statistics. In order to use it to test, in order to rank which who I think that who should receive the MVP for the year. And so after I gathered all these statistics, the next thing I did, I inserted some columns: one, two, three, four, five, six. I think it was like six columns I inserted. Yep. And so the first one was the player net rating. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to figure out like what each player was bringing to the table, right? The net rating here, this 9.5, is based off of also offensive rating and defensive rating. These are team ratings, right? So this is what the team's performance was while you were on a court. But we need to know what you bring to the table. And so for me, the best way to evaluate that was by looking at your field goal percentage and then looking at the opposition field goal percentage. So basically, this is what the people you were guarding, this is what they shot versus against you. So everybody you guarded on the court when you were playing in these games, every time you contested, the people you contested, this is how well they shot, right? And so that's how I'm able to get this player net rating here. So I basically subtract the opposition field goal percentage from the field goal percentage. And for Nikola Jokic, it was 11.5%, which is insanely high. It's pretty ridiculous, honestly. And so the next thing I did, like I said before, is the net rating. So I essentially basically subtracted the defensive rating from the offensive rating. And so this basically tells us how well the team performed while you were on the court. And then this here's the same thing as the player rating. I just removed the percentages and just entered it here because of the calculation that I needed to do. So then the next column here, I essentially combined the team net rating and the player net rating. So that's essentially, I added this net rating here with the player net rating. And so when you add it together, you get, for Nikola Jokic, you get 21. So at this point, it was probably a little premature for me to do this. I ranked all of the, once I did it, I ranked all the, all the prospects, 2022 MVP prospects, right? I ranked all of it by this rating here, the team rating plus the player net rating. And so when I ranked it, this is what I came up with, right? It's Nikola Jokic was number one, Giannis was number two, Joel Embiid was number three, Kevin Durant was number four, right? And so after that, I decided to continue, right? And so what I did at that point was I added the this total rating here. The total rating is essentially the team net rating and player net rating. I added it to the defensive rebound, and when I added to the defensive rebound, this is what I came up with. I did it for all the prospects here, all the MVP candidates, I should say. And so if you notice here, it's still basically the order didn't change, right? Order just didn't change; it stayed the same. I think it was just coincidental, to tell you the truth. That that's kind of like how it fell. It doesn't really. I don't think it really. I don't know if it really says much else. And then after that, I also added. I took this number here and then added the points to it. And the reason why I decided to add the points to it is because the points is like a production, right? It's something that like this is a game of points. Whoever has the most points win. And so these MVP candidates are contributing also points. They're not just the field goal percentage tells us how efficient they are, right? And the opposing field goal tells us how well they play defense, right? And so defensive rebound tells us how well they close out a possession, help the team to close out possessions after a defensive stop. But the points are also a contribution. It's a production. It's production that they're given to the team, And so I wanted to add that in as well. And then also the reason why I wanted to add that in, honestly, was because I wanted to make sure that it's basically Nikola Jokic, basically him being in first place sort of wasn't a fluke, because these are basically sort of like efficiency numbers, right? And efficiency numbers were great, right? And then also defensive rebounding number was great as well. But if you notice here, there was almost a 4 points per game difference between these players and Jokic, and so these players are actually contributing almost 4 points more than he's contributing to their team, right? And this is all about production and stats. Who had the best statistical season? And so that's why I decided to make sure I added the points to it as well. But when I added the points, basically it just only closed the gap between Nikola Jokic and Giannis. They were by far ahead of the rest of the group here. So let me just highlight these two here. Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And so that's essentially, that's essentially what I have. And so the rank didn't change, right? And so the order still stayed the same. And Nikola Jokic still has a slight margin or slight lead over Giannis in his MVP race, according to these statistics, in terms of trying to figure out who had the best statistical season. So after these two, like the next person was Joel Embiid. And so now there's a lot of talk, obviously, about Joel Embiid. A lot of people are saying he's the best player, right now on in the league, right? And he's having the best season in the league, given what he's been able to do with his team, the Philadelphia 76ers, because they've also had a lot of drama with like Ben Simmons, and they had to trade Ben Simmons. And so essentially, supposedly, he's been doing it alone. However, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case. I mean, this is a team sport, right? And so, but the whole point I'm trying to make is like, if you look here, I mean, it's not even really close. Even if you take away, even if you're just looking at these net ratings here, where you're just looking at basically where you just combine these two net ratings, right, and you just go off that. I mean, it's still Jokic and Giannis, right? And then are kind of close to each other, and then Embiid is like way down, like it's a distant third. And so statistically, they're not really. Embiid is not on the same level as Giannis and Jokic, and people probably don't want to hear that and don't want to believe it, but it's really the truth. They're not on the same. Statistically, they're just not on the same level, because first of all, these two, Giannis and Jokic is shooting 57% from the field. His true shooting percentage is probably something like 66%, something insane like that. And so, I mean, that's ridiculous. This Jokic is ridiculously efficient. Now, that is the thing with him. And then you look at these defensive rebounds. He's no slouch. It's not even just like, he's putting up just offensive numbers, He's not a great individual defender, but he's just so dominant on the offensive end that, like, I mean, he just basically outplays whoever's on the opposite end. And so that is the reason why he's just so far ahead of, like, especially him and Giannis are so far ahead of like everyone else. They're just way more efficient on the offensive end, and also very good defenders as well, right? Although Jokic is not that great, like I said, his opposing players shoot usually 46% against him. It's not horrendous, but it's not great either, right? And so, and this is where the storyline is coming. Like I was saying, everyone is pushing Joel Embiid because it's a great story. I don't think Joel Embiid. He's never won the MVP before. He's had a lot of injury issues, but these voters, they love a great story. The writers, these sports writers, they love a great story, and so that's the reason why. I think that's one of the reasons why they've been pushing Embiid so hard. He's been having a great season. Don't get me wrong, but statistically, it's really not close to these. It's not really close to these the top two guys. And then the other person is like, which is actually, I don't want to say it's laughable or silly that they put DeMar DeRozan in this conversation, but look at where DeMar DeRozan is, right? he's like way below these guys. Like when you rank it, right? He's not even anywhere near close. Even if you look at the forwards, right? You look at the forwards. He's not even the top dog in terms of like forwards slash guards. Tatum, has that top spot. You know, and Tatum is at he's ranked basically one, two, three, four. He's ranked fifth in his race. And so DeMar DeRozan is just like it's a great story because he kind of had a quiet year with the San Antonio Spurs. Nobody really expected much from the Bulls, and he's been kind of like he's been carrying the Bulls. He's been doing his thing with the Bulls. But he's just not. I just don't believe he has a chance or he should even be. He should win the award in my opinion, at least according to these stats. These stats suggest that um, he sh- he shouldn't get the award. And right now, like I said, is Jokic is still in the lead, is by a small margin, but he's still in the lead. The only other the only Giannis I guess can catch up if he maybe if he increases. I don't know. It probably might be too late to increase the field goal percentage because it's only like 18 games left, right? It may be if Giannis goes crazy and then starts like an average 40 points a game for the rest of the season and pushes this average up even a little more, I think he could find. I think that's his best shot at um, overtaking Nikola Jokic for the top spot. So Giannis, if you're listening, I know this is a small channel. I get like me and my 20 views or whatever I get. So, but if he's watching, if he wants to win the award, he can basically go crazy, go ham, and just start dropping 40 burgers. You know, the whole burger slang. It wasn't mine. I got it for I think it's the guy JD Sports. So one of those guys from Nick Fan TV. I stole it from them. So, but like yeah, so it's that's the only way I see Giannis catching up. I'm trying to see something. There's some really interesting stuff on here. Honestly, doing this is really interesting. Doing this analysis is extremely interesting. I like doing it because it brings up a lot of things. Right? It's like one thing you're noticing right off the back is like the changing of the guard. Right? I mean, we saw it coming a while ago anyway. Especially with Jokic and Giannis, is how they came on the last like no, Jokic really just came on really came on the last 3 seasons where people really started to give him recognition. Giannis, obviously, people already know he's been a beast for like 5 years probably now. Joel Embiid, he's always been a beast, but he's still pretty young. He's younger than these guys. But the thing that's really interesting, you see Jason Tatum, he's coming on. This kid is only like what 23 or 24, 23 maybe, and he's coming on. Look at him, he's ranked fifth in this right here. The only thing that's screwing Jason Tatum up is like his field goal percentage. He's just not efficient enough. Look at this defensive field goal percentage. This is what he's holding down opposing players to. He's playing great defense. That's what this shows me. If he can just improve his efficiency, it's not even just so he can win the MVP one year, but if he improves his efficiency, the Boston Celtics are going to be a problem, a huge problem in the future. I mean, I didn't even know his efficiency was this low, and so you can see why like they're kind of like a um, middle of the road team right now, and why they've been struggling a little bit. It's because his efficiency is like it's really low, but then he's only 23. Like when this kid turns like 27, 28, man, it's gonna he's already a problem. He's gonna be a bigger problem. If he's watching, he just needs to work on his efficiency. He works on his efficiency number. If he can get this up to like 50%, he gets it up to 50%. He's gonna be up there with he's gonna be up there. And then also look at him, 7 rebounds, defensive rebounds. So he does a good job rebounding the ball. I'm not sure how much he averages overall. He probably averages something like 8 rebounds a game, but that's pretty dang good. Then the other thing you kind of noticed was like the other thing that jumped out at me was Steph Curry and LeBron James, and like their numbers are like their numbers are starting to slump and dip, right? Steph Curry, I couldn't believe 43% for the year. I had no idea he was shooting 43% for the year. It was like, And so I'm kind of like double checking. I may have to double check this number here again. I got it from NBA.com, so I don't know, but I got to double check it anyway. But I'm very surprised to see this 43% from the field. He's holding defenders to under 44% shooting. That's, he's been playing great defense. He's been playing really good defense. So that's really interesting. The other thing I said, LeBron James. LeBron's averaging 29 points a game, but his defensive field goal opposing field goal percentage, 47%. Whew. That's, like, oh my goodness. And look at this is more actually, I think this is more an issue with the rest of the team that he has. The fact that it doesn't fit, but this might be the first time in his career, probably in a long time, since probably the first time in like at least 10 years that this is kind of like inverted, where his defensive rating is higher than his offensive rating. That is bananas. But I think that's probably more, if you look at his field goal, he's shooting 52%. That's not his fault, actually. What this clearly tells you, they have all issues with their offense on this team. And so that's kind of what's dragging them down, to tell you the truth. And so a lot of times when people see this and they're like, oh, LeBron James, he's lost it. Offensive rating is 110. Defensive rating is 112. I mean, the defensive rating kind of accurately reflects what's happening with his individual performance, possibly. But the offensive rating, it doesn't reflect what he brings to the table. 52% from the field. Are you kidding me? Like, who else shoots 50? This guy shoots. Joel Embiid is shooting 49% from the field, and his offensive rating is basically 115. Are you telling me Joel Embiid he's definitely not more efficient? So why is his offensive rating so much higher than LeBron's? And so yeah, this is one of those reasons why where these offensive rating and defensive ratings can be really tricky, and that's why, and this is why I incorporate these two here. I used to I've gone back and forth, and but now it's like I've learned to actually incorporate both instead of trying to figure out which one to use, right? You don't have to use one and dump the other. You can actually incorporate both. You can use both, right? And you need to use both because it gives you more of a fuller picture, right? And so, but that's one thing I noticed here. It was LeBron and Curry. It's almost like, so you're seeing kind of like these are basically these were the superstars, like beyond superstars. These guys freaking, they lorded over the league, you know, for like a decade, close to that. Steph Curry less, more like 6 years or so, but it's crazy. It's kind of crazy to see him start falling down in these rankings, right? And like I said, mostly LeBron. I think most of it is because of the team that they built around him. That's really what the issue is for LeBron. And then Luka Doncic, Luka, it's really interesting. Luka, to tell you the truth, like looking at it, I'm kind of surprised that the offensive rating is at only 111. He shoots 45% from the field. Now that's pretty decent, right? That's slightly. I think that might be either league average, around league average. Opponent field goal percentage is a little high. He needs to try to bring that down. The thing that's really interesting, you compare these two numbers, right? You compare these two numbers because he's actually negative. His player rating is actually negative because he's given up more. He's given up a higher percentage than he actually makes. But man, look at his defensive rebounding numbers. This kid is a monster. 8.4 defensive rebounds a game. Like this is like a point forward. That's insane. Like this is like LeBron James. LeBron James is averaging 7. Maybe LeBron used to average 8. It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised if he used to be like eight for LeBron. But the point is this is insane. This kid is a monster. The other thing though is it's the offensive rating is much lower than I anticipated. The defensive rating is pretty good. It's very solid, right? And so if you look at his defensive rating for the team while he's on the floor compared to what he holds opponents to. It's like, how is this defensive rating so tight over here? This is pretty solid over here. It doesn't reflect what he's bringing to the table. So it kind of suggests that the team is carrying him on the defensive end. And of course, we know that's probably the case. But it is really interesting. He needs to, if you can get his efficiency up, I think it will definitely help a lot. Statistically, man, unless he gets his efficiency up, I just don't know uh, how it happens for him. And then of course the next person is Trey Young. Funny, Trey Young, obviously he's a small guard, shoots 45%, but defense is a huge problem for Trey. He's just like a turnstile basically. Offensive rating 116. You know what's crazy? This offense rating doesn't even reflect his field goal percentage. But the thing that's really interesting is this is one of those crazy things where with basketball it's so crazy sometimes. Just because of the way he plays, the fact that he's on the floor, and because he's a threat, and he doesn't even shoot a high percentage from three. I think he shoots like maybe 37, 38% from three, maybe even less. And he does all those crazy long from the logo threes, which those long from the logo threes, he usually shoots at like probably high 20s. And so that's why I love when he shoots those shots. I love when he takes it from the logo because he shoots probably like 25%, 25 to 29%. Trust me, I know I'm a Knicks fan. We've played him enough to know we play him like 4 times a year, so I see it plenty of times. He shoots his team in the foot with those logo shots. You know, in the playoffs, occasionally it works, and so in some ways it actually, when he does hit it, this is where it creates a problem here because just even though he's hitting it only like 25 to 27, like maybe somewhere between 25 and 30% from there, if he hits like once or twice in a game, it's like it just screws everything up for the opposing team. And so just the fact that he's a threat to actually do that, that's part of the reason why this officer rating is so high. I mean, like just when he's on the floor, and it's not just the from the logo threes that he takes. I mean, he's just a great floor general, man. Like he just creates so much play. He creates so much. Also, he creates like it feels like it's almost like gravity, right? It's almost like it's almost like there's this. He creates this gravity around him. It's like he creates a lot of action, especially off the pick and roll, obviously. And so he's an amazing point guard, and defensive rating of 114. That pretty much 115 basically. That reflects his defensive effort as well, especially the fact that he's at the point of attack. Now, if he really wants to if he really wants to help their team out, he should really work on his defense. You're not gonna if somebody gets in the lane. I'm not saying he's gonna be able to block somebody's shot, but he needs to be able to keep people out of the lane. I think that's the biggest thing with Trey Young. He's a fast dude. He's got fast hands, got fast feet. There's no reason why he can't work over the summer and figure out a way and just start playing better defense. He can do it. I just think he just hasn't committed to it, and he's probably never really committed to it. But a little bit I know about this guy, he's got great hands, great feet. I mean, he should be able to keep defenders in front of him, and he needs to just. I think he just needs to do better, and that's the way for him to actually even move up this ranking here, and also to help his team out too. It's not just about moving up these rankings, but pretty much that's what I have. John Moran, actually, I'm sorry, I wanted to talk about him a little bit. I mean, look at him. He's actually, funny enough, he's above Luka and he's above Trey on this ranking. And why is that? He's shooting 49% from the field. He's improved the defense a little bit, but it's still not great. This is like above, below average. It's like honestly this year you want this to be like really. I think league average is maybe 44.5. So you want this to be around 44.5 or below, maybe at worst 45. But once you start getting to that 46 range, that's no good, right? And decent rebounder for a point guard. Offensive rating for the team is almost 114 and a half. Defensive rating while he's on the floor is 111. It's not great, but it's all right. I know there's like a lot of hype around him doing something, and like that kid Bane, you hear him talk. Sometimes, man, I don't know. I don't see it happening for them yet. Um, he's their best player. Um, I haven't looked at all the other teammates' numbers to tell you the truth, but Desmond Bane is a good player. He's obviously a really good shooter as well. I just don't see it for them yet. I don't honestly. I don't even see it for them unless like Ja is really young, so he definitely could get even better. But I just don't right now. I just don't see them being able to even like sniff the conference finals, in my opinion. But yeah, this is pretty much what I have analyzing like the top MVP candidates, and like I said, I have Nikola Jokic at the top spot, slightly above Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the only way I see Giannis catching him if he just like I say, he just needs to drop 40 burgers for the rest of the season, do something crazy like that. If he does it, I see him winning it. He's gonna get it over here. He should be able to get over Giannis on his ranking. However, what everyone should look out for, like I was saying before, is these writers, they love a story. The writers love a story. A lot of times, you do get players that win the MVP, and it's because it was a great story. You don't see that as much. I know last year people thought maybe Jokic MVP was it kind of fit the league narrative, nice story, and finally he gets the recognition after so many years of putting up like crazy numbers. But Giannis, yeah, Giannis deserved to win it last year. I did the same analysis last year, and Giannis was actually came out on top. And so right now he's slightly ahead. Like I said, Giannis, just drop some 40 burgers if he wants to, kind of really get the attention of the voters. Joel Embiid, like I said, he's a great story, so people should watch out. So there's a strong possibility he wins as well. Um, DeMar DeRozan, no. I mean, it's a great story. He's only in there in the story because of he's only in the conversation because it was a great story, but he's not gonna win it. He's not even statistically. He's not even sniffing the same air as these guys. And this is not to demean these guys, because the thing that's crazy. Oh, the other thing I noticed about this whole list, like lately, is like look at these guys. Look at the guys that are leading this here, right? These are all big men, right? And everyone said like the age of the big men was long gone. I mean, like I don't know. I don't know about that. Kevin Durant is just a big man who knows how to shoot, who's actually a guard, but he's a great defender. In terms of defensively, he plays like a big man. Especially, I give him much respect recently, especially since he's been to the Brooklyn Nets. Man, he's just like I don't know. I just never used to watch him a ton when he was in the West Coast, and I kind of felt like he was court riding when he won the championships um, with the Warriors. But it's like he's just like that Brooklyn Nets team. They're not the same when he's not there on the defensive end. He basically carries them on the defensive end. He's like a huge difference maker on the defensive end for the Nets. And so that's the reason why I have a huge respect for Kevin Durant these days. But if you like, I guess what I was trying to say, didn't mean to go off tangent, but these are big men that can make plays, that carry their team. They're good passers, efficient shooters, and it's crazy how the game has changed. And these guys can step outside. These guys operate from the wing, operate from the 3 point line. It doesn't matter. They'll operate from anywhere. These top four guys, right? And it's just kind of crazy to see. It's like ever since LeBron came in, I don't know. It's just like you're starting to get these it's like these it would be anomalies. Like it's almost like Ralph Sampson back in the day, right? Like you had Ralph Sampson, and then that was it, and that's that was it. And who else did you get? Who else was after Ralph Sampson? Who else? Who else? Who else? That was it for like how many decades until I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Please don't let me look like a fool because I'm blanking out. I guess I want to say Nikola Jokic, right? Um, because I'm talking about like centers or big men. Oh, I'm sorry, Giannis. Giannis. I'm sorry. I'm like, and hopefully there's no other ones that I'm forgetting. Sort of, I guess Chris Bosh also, but Chris Bosh wasn't on the same level as Ralph Sampson and these guys. I'm trying to think who else. But we're starting to see these big men that just operate from anywhere, and it's like that's just the other thing that I'm really noticing with this list. And it's like it's I don't know, and it's like honestly, it's gonna make it very difficult for wings to win an MVP. The only way I can see a wing winning is like it's got to be a LeBron type, right? And it might as well be a damn small ball center. LeBron, what is it, like 6'8" or something like that? Athletic, average like damn near 10 boards. So it's such a different game. It's going to be very difficult actually going forward. I think it's going to be very difficult for guards to win it. Although Stephen Curry won it, those I think that one year, especially he got unanimous. I didn't mind him winning that MVP that one year. He's like the greatest shooter I've ever seen. I love Steph Curry, but unanimous, I thought that was like a little absurd. Because if you look at statistically, if you're talking about who had the best statistical season, even back then, I don't think he would have been close, right? LeBron James probably would have, like if there was a ranking like this, LeBron James probably would have been at 60, and Steph Curry would have been at like okay, maybe not, because Steph Curry's at like 40.5 now, and he's basically and he's kind of taking a step back statistically, so maybe not. But I do think it's going to be harder. I guess the point I'm trying to make is going to be harder for guards and small forwards to win these awards going forward, especially if people are leaning heavier on stats. I mean, you got a guy like me looking at this stuff. This is not even my day job. There are people that are way smarter than me, like when it comes to advanced statistics and and modeling. And it's like when they start getting into this stuff, and then everyone is looking at this stuff. It's like, and so it's almost like you're gonna have more people holding these riders their feet to the fire, and so you're not gonna have, where, for example, they're not gonna be able to get away with like giving an award to DeMar DeRozan because it was a great story. They'll probably get skewered, and people be like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, but that's pretty much what I have, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think. I'll be more than happy to respond. Man, this went almost 40 minutes. I was trying to do like a 10-minute video, but thank you guys. Have a good night.